Welcome to Big Little Stories. I'm Ivy Sharmetz. A couple of years ago, I was in a store. I was checking out, and after I paid, the cashier told me to have a good day on purpose. And something about that struck me. At first, I think I wasn't sure if she meant to be deliberate about having a good day, or if she was telling me to make sure that my day was fulfilling my purpose in life. And the more I thought about it, though, I think I decided to take it to mean both, because purpose is a very powerful thing, and no one can speak more eloquently about purpose than my guest today, Suneet Bhatt. Suneet literally teaches a class on purpose at Rutgers. He's also a very dear friend of mine. Thank you so much for being here, Suneet.
It is great to be here.
I'm going to start by saying that we have a mutual friend who connected us a while ago. And the first conversation we had, we were talking about a possible project we were going to do together. We immediately bonded and spoke for much longer than I think either of us had intended to speak on that first call, over the power of storytelling. And I want to start with that because it's such a through line in all of the work that you do, just authentic storytelling. Can you tell me why storytelling is so important and why you've made it such a passion of yours?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Look, I grew up loving stories, right? I grew up loving comic books. I grew up loving reading, and I think innately when I hear a story, I remember it more than when I hear anything else. When I hear facts, when I hear data, if it's not in a narrative form, I wasn't gonna remember it. And what's interesting is over time, and then I was an English major in college to my immigrant parents' chagrin. I did not take anything technical, and what was great was at one point my dad was pretty frustrated with my choice to be an English major, and my great uncle stepped in and said, "Look, no matter what career he chooses from this point forward, he's going to be able to communicate more effectively than just about anybody else there,
So true.
because he's going to be able to put it in narrative form." And that was an aha moment for me because he told my story better than I could tell it myself. And my dad also stopped bugging me. But I think that was the start. And then since then, I've just spent a lot of time learning about why, right? So you become curious about why. And what you learn is that when you're a part of a story, when you're listening to the story, it's one of the rare times where you're actually physiologically and biologically transported within the experience of the storyteller. And that's one of the reasons why you connect with it so much, is you actually feel like the story, you've become a part of the story, you're transported. And that shifts from taking in information passively to actively experiencing something, which helps with the retention, belief, conviction around it. And so that's why stories are so powerful. And I think today, with so much information available, the issue is not, can I get information? The issue is, can I process it, synthesize it, and retain it? And stories are so much more powerful today because of that.
And that kind of leads right into your work with purpose.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
let's start very simple here. What is purpose? How do you
Okay.
define purpose?
Oh, wow. What? You were really playing to my favorite questions. Um, Look, how do I define purpose? I think the first belief for me is that purpose is not something you chase.
Mm.
Purpose is something you arrive at through self-awareness, experimentation, and iteration. So changing purpose from this unattainable destination, trophy on a pillar that is hard to access, to something that is a journey of constant evolution, is the first reframe that I try and do for the folks I work with. And I think, but that's how I talk about purpose, is it's really something you unearth rather than something you discover.
How did you figure that out? Because I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes from a young age, right? Like, find your purpose in life, find your purpose. We're
Yeah.
trained to chase purpose. How
Yeah.
did you figure out that it was something that it's almost like you're saying purpose is a verb and not a noun. Like, you live in purpose.
Mm.
You don't
Oh,
try to achieve your purpose.
yeah. I've never thought about it that way. That's well put. I think Mental note. I'm gonna explore that. I think I love that. I love that positioning. How did I discover it? I think a few different ways, but probably the most. It really became clear for me. The last team I ran was 1,100 people, so I had 1,100 people reporting to me, and this was during the pandemic, so I couldn't connect with them in person. They were distributed around the world, and what I was struggling to help them find was their motivation for work.
Mm.
And if I tried to impose motivation on them, it was not going to work. And if I tried to give them some abstract journey to find it, they were just going to flail. So instead, I said, let's just start your purpose journey from the inside out. What matters to you? What makes you happy? What are your strengths? What do you value? When have you felt confident? What are times where you have been successful? What's the inverse? What frustrates you? Where do you get stuck? And what's interesting is when these people start unearthing and excavating and answering these questions for themselves, you start seeing patterns, right? Things start to stack on top of each other. And that's what puts you, all of a sudden you crystallize your purpose. And it's something that comes from the inside out. And that's maybe the last thing that's important about purpose.
Mm.
Is it has to be yours. You have to own it authentically. It's like, if you've ever done a consulting project or work for somebody else, you may do amazing work, but if you give it to them and it doesn't feel like theirs, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
You have to make it feel like theirs. And so I think that is the difference between chasing, which feels hamster wheel, and unearthing from the inside out, which feels like a really beautiful self-discovery exercise. It's scary. Like, it's really scary.
Well, I was just going to ask
but
you,
it's beautiful.
are people comfortable doing that exercise? Because it feels like you have to have an honesty with yourself that maybe we don't always do too well.
We do. We don't. Oh, wow, we could go for hours. We don't always do it. I don't think we have the space. The world doesn't give us the space to do it. And when they give us the space to do it, they don't give us the structure so we can focus on the work instead of what work to do. And so I think people do. And the way the way you take some of that anxiety away, and I've had to do this with students and folks I coach and teams I've worked with, is I just say, take it as far as you want to go. So if there's something you want to touch, there's some deep trauma that you have, don't do that. Think about it in the context of something else. Think about your purpose. It doesn't have to be forever. Just get started. Maybe it's your purpose for now. And so how do you take it, walk it back as far as you possibly can so that the person says, okay, I can do that work. But you are hitting on something that's really important. In my class, when I do cohorts for professionals, in my executive coaching, there is always an opt-in. So there is a disclaimer at the beginning. There's a social contract, right? It's very Rousseauian. So I say, look, this is what I'm going to bring to the table for you. This is my promise to you, and my signature. And if you're going to do this, you need to play back that you're going to be honest. You're going to follow through. You're going to be as vulnerable as you want. You're going to tell me your limits. You're going to say, hey, this is something I'm not ready for. I'll come back to it. And we'll say, great. And I think that's why it's also progress to purpose, find and evolve. It's an iteration as opposed to one single massive leap, Superman style leap that like nobody can take, right?
Are people
So
kind of,
people are
but
fearful.
are people surprised?
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt. Are people surprised because they
Yeah.
sort of think they have this one purpose and then they go through this exercise and they realize, oh, wait, this is my purpose,
Goodness.
not that.
Yes. So it happens a few different ways. I think I also let folks know that some people are going to come in and they're going to say, I already know my purpose, right? And I'll say, great. What this is going to do, if that's correct, is it's going to give you extreme confidence and conviction, this framework, in your purpose. So you're going to be able to articulate it and bring that story to life much more clearly. And you're going to know yourself so much better than you ever have before and better than anyone else ever will. So that when you articulate your purpose, you do it with greater confidence and conviction and belief because you have source material and data behind it to support sort of that action. Some people think they know their purpose and this is a switch for them. And so they are, as long as they're open to that journey, it happens. But what's beautiful is even in the course, we don't talk about purpose until class 14 out of 15. We just do the discovery and self-reflection and deep personal work first so that they arrive at this purpose authentically. They start to see the patterns for themselves. And I have had people take major career shifts, major switches. I just did a workshop. I'm here in Denver, so this is a wonderful hotel room. I'm in Denver. I just did a workshop yesterday for 150 or so people, and I had several people in one 60-minute session come up to me and say, "Oh my goodness, you just helped me. You gave me space and facilitated me getting to a place that means I have a very different career that I need to pursue from now on.
Wow.
And now I know that I'm going to start taking those steps."
Wow.
And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And that was just 60 minutes of space. And so this goes back, Ivy, to your question about why don't people chase it? Because chase is frenetic and disorganized, and it's the wrong kind of energy. It's blind pursuit. If you step back and unearth the stuff that's meaningful to you, you'll get there. And I think that requires us giving people space, right? Space and grace, as my little pin says.
I love it. And I think it also, we started off talking about your authentic story. I think that's part of how you, I would imagine how you get to your purpose too, by being true to what is your authentic story. And all of those things that you're talking about are part of the narrative that we create for ourselves.
Yeah, it's true. It starts with, the harshest stories we tell are the ones we tell ourselves. And I think that's one of the toughest things to see as you watch people work through their story and work through their struggles and, where they're stuck. And so to that authentic story thing, the first thing I love doing with the folks that I'm friends with or work with or in any capacity is just help them tell nicer, more friendlier stories to themselves about themselves. It's so important. If you can do that and be kinder to yourself, you've created a better backdrop and setting for some of that fearful work that you're going to do. If you're anxious and you're telling yourself a really critical story, you're not going to be resilient when you unearth something new. You're going to stop, right? The stronger you are, the happier you are, the more growth-minded you are, the more supported you feel, the safer you feel, the more likely you are to power through the ups and downs of some of this journey to get to the truth.
That's so powerful. We're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, I want to talk to you about how you teach young people about purpose, because I think that's amazing. That's amazing. We'll be right back. So when I was a student at Rutgers many years ago, I would have loved to take a class about purpose. You have to tell me, Professor, how did you create a class about purpose? And I mean, the response has been pretty incredible.
Yeah, you hit me at a pretty powerful time. I'll tell you why. But in terms of how did I arrive at this course of purpose, it was an interesting journey, right? It's a series of experiments. So, I had my team and I was taking them on purpose journeys. Long story short, I think all work is a social contract now. Employers have to get really good at saying, hey, this is what the job is. And people have to get really good at saying, okay, this is the job I want. Companies do a great job of defining what the work is. Nobody helps the people define what they really want before they accept a job. So I started doing that so that my people could be more successful in the roles that we were giving them and they were accepting. I then took that executive coaching, so work with Fortune 500 execs, et cetera, and it was great. And the big thing that jumped out to me was, the oldest person I worked with was 67 years old, had sold 2 businesses, and was raising his hand and saying, Suneet, I don't think I know why I'm here. Wow. 2 super successful children. Like it was extraordinary. Wow. And he had a medical condition that forced him to sort of rethink. And that's why he raised his hand. And what leapt out to me was how much like happiness, joy, productivity, goodwill are we wasting in the world by waiting until somebody gets to be 40, 45, 50 and raise their hand and say, I don't know my purpose. Wow. What happens if we start teaching people this when they're 17 and 18? So I wrote a 1-pager. I pitched it to Duke, one of my alma maters, and I pitched it to Rutgers. And a lot of people just didn't get it. But the school management and labor relations, and three friends, Alfred Blake, Hazel Ann Johnson Marcus, and Ryan Greenbaum, who all work at Rutgers, saw the one pager and said, "You've got a class. Like just try this here." They saw my framework, so that was the first part. Was like just take a swing at it. And then in terms of methodology, right? It is a lot of the stuff we just talked about. A lot of people say purpose can't be taught, and I think that's the most important thing. Is I'm not trying to teach. I'm trying to create space and facilitate your own journey and your discovery. And so the framework is we spend, it's 15 classes. We spend the first like 10 weeks doing nothing other than assessments. So you see what makes you happy. You see what makes you proud. You see what your strengths are. You see what your values are. You see what your dreams are. And you just start seeing yourself 8 or 9 different ways. And then you start seeing the patterns and the overlaps. And then we start lacing it together. So the first thing we do is give you a lot of rich material, objective material about yourself and let you engage with that. The second thing we do is we make space to start lacing it together. And then the third thing, and the last part of the class is, okay, where do you want to take this? Some people say, hey, I want to take this to a job. I want to take this to graduate school. I want to take this back to my family. I want to be a better kid. I want to be a better parent. And so then we build bridges. So connect dots, tie laces, build bridges. The most impactful part, I think, of the class is we do something called co-journaling. And so journaling, we know, is important. Writing, documenting, releasing, emptying that mental backpack and that burden that you carry, getting it down on paper so you see it objectively and can process it better is great. One of the challenges with this generation and most of us is anxiety is at an all-time high. And so if you just journal into a void, you can go to some pretty dark places. So what I commit to everybody I work with is I co-journal with them. And so they write, they share a document with me, and I journal alongside them. And my job, Ivy, we're sort of the same vintage, right? We've all been to like the fun house and the house of crazy mirrors. Mm-hmm. I tell everybody that I want to be the most generous, flattering, favorable mirror you have ever looked into. So when you exit the class, you feel like positive. And
you
love
are, by the way,
this,
I'm going to stop you
work.
and say that you are not just like that in class. You are like that to everyone in your life, which is why you're such a treasure to everyone who knows you. And I've been to your class. I've been to your class. You've been a guest speaker in your class. I've been honored to be a guest speaker. And I think the most amazing thing to me is these students are taking this work very seriously. And the consequence of taking it very seriously is it's changing their lives. And you even mentioned it's changing the paths that they thought they were on, which, I mean, to get an 18, 19, 20-year-old student to do that is pretty remarkable. It's hard work you said it's hard work for someone in their 60s to do, let alone someone who's, 19 trying to figure out what their purpose is in life.
Yep. I mean, you've hit it, and you've been a guest speaker. You're coming back. I love it. And I think that's also important, which is the students so we have 10 guest speakers out of 15 sessions. We end up having 10 or 11 guest speakers, and we really focus on, it's such a breadth and diversity of experiences. I've had former students come back and tell their story as well. And it's beautiful because then it's not about me. It's about them and their experience. And that's why it's even more important for me to bring in an objective third party to tell their story as well. And it's so powerful and it's so great. And I'll say 2 things. Even the journey, the best feedback I've ever gotten is the number of students who have said, you know what, professor, like I'm still working on my purpose. I'm like, great. You know where you are in your journey, but they say, I know I'm going to be okay.
Wow.
When someone tells you, hey, I know I'm going to be okay. What else are we here for than letting them know they're going to be okay? And the second thing that, I'm still processing is Rutgers released their strategic plan for 2024 to 2029. And their first goal and the first bullet point is actually committing to helping students find their purpose. And that to me was
huge.
Wow. Like our alma mater is going to care about their enrolled students this much. We are lucky. They are lucky. And we're doing something right. Our generation's getting something right.
I remember when I was in school, when you're planning your life out, you're thinking about how am I going to be successful, right? How am I going to be valued in a way. How do you
Mhm.
sort of balance, or what is the difference between finding your purpose and finding value, or being valued or being successful? Because I feel like, especially when you're in school and you're planning your career, you're kind of
Yeah.
thinking about all of those things.
Yeah. So in terms of like impact and value versus purpose, I think for a lot of folks is the thing we focus on the most is just the first value you can create is a personal flywheel, which is
Mm.
give yourself sustainable energy and momentum. And that's what we do is we get people to talk about the stuff. Human beings are terrible at knowing what will make them happy. The reason is we rarely take time to remind ourselves what did make us happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we do that, we become better predictors of success. So the first value we do is just get some momentum. And the second thing we talk about is footholds, which is about progress. Like it's 1%, it's atomic habits, it's all of those things, but we break it down in a way that students can grasp on it. So we just say, depending on where you are, just focus on the next right thing, the next best step you can take, and that's progress. Like, don't focus on the destination. Sometimes you just have to focus on taking the next step. And everybody's on a different place in their journey, even our students. So
Yeah.
for some of them, it is just getting unstuck, just getting off of that plateau. And for some of them, it is material and significant progress against the goal, an application, an interview, etc. So we have to individualize. We have to meet students where they are. We have to put them in position to celebrate whatever progress they're making. Does that kind of get to the question?
That's perfect. And I'll say also that some of us who are lucky enough, this is why you are the person that we call when we need to talk something through. We're not sure what to do, because you are that guy. You are that guy. I could talk to you about this for hours. We like to end each interview with
Yes.
3 big little questions. We do them kind of rapid fire. Are you up for it?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, I'm down. Let's go.
All right. So the first one, and I am dying to hear your answer on this. First one is, how do you get yourself out of a bad mood?
Ooh. How do I get myself out of a bad mood? I just think about something that makes me happy. I forgive myself for being in a bad mood. I think about something that I indulge myself. What is going to make me happy? And so, whether it's a Friendly's Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Sundae, it is time with my kids. It is just going to bed early. Any of those things I will do. If I'm in a bad mood, I will do the simplest thing, the most indulgent thing to make me just smile. Like, that's it. It's really simple.
I love the first thing you said is you forgive yourself for being in a bad mood.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
We got to forgive ourselves.
That's amazing. What is your second question? What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, it is "Kiss" by Prince.
Really?
Oh
That's
my God, this is the greatest. This is the greatest song.
That's the
ever.
greatest. That's the greatest. And what is one of your favorite spots in New Jersey? I know you love a lot of spots in New Jersey. What's one of your favorite? Yeah.
Favorite spots in New Jersey. It's a big spot, but I'm going to say my whole borough. I love Metuchen.
Yeah.
Metuchen, New Jersey. The vibe, the energy. Some friends and I just planned our first Porch Fest this past weekend.
Oh, how cool.
And it was amazing. And I just love our borough and all the dynamics and all the people in it. And
great
it
restaurants
is,
too,
I never thought, great restaurants. And I never thought I could find a home I love as much as my childhood home. And I have.
I love that. You do such great work. You are truly one of the people that make this world a better place. I feel like a better person every time I talk to you. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. And I just think you're fantastic. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I wish you the best of luck. And it is all mutual.
Thank you. Thank you. That is it for Big Little Stories for today. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.